runner has a higher proportion of red fibers, the aerobic fibers, than ordinary people do. Because of that, the person who holds the world record for some short distance, whether it be the 400 meters or the 1 mile, they're an awesome athlete, but they can never hold the world record for the marathon. They don't have that anatomy to provide that functionality. And likewise, the person who holds the world record for the marathon can never hold the world record for the mile because they don't have that makeup of their red and white fibers. So keep in mind when the purpose of going through metabolism, we will tie it into aerobic, meaning use oxygen, versus anaerobic, don't need oxygen. That takes us to the dark meat and white meat of the chicken, and exercise, and it's kind of cool. So, sources of ATP, Roman numeral 14. You need the board. You have the notes in front of you. Some of these sources of ATP you will have heard of and should have reviewed and be very familiar with because it's plain old biology. Others you have not heard of. Number one, I don't think you've heard of. Now you may have heard of it in another class, but not in biology. This is called the phosphagen energy system. It is neither aerobic or anaerobic. It's neither one. Okay, the other sources we'll be able to classify as an aerobic way of making ATP versus an anaerobic way of making ATP. This one is neither one. You don't get a lot of time out of this system. 8 to 10 seconds. Using this system alone, you get 8 to 10 seconds of energy. But this is the system that you always use first. What if you were about to be run over by a truck, you saw it out of the corner of your eye, and you wanted to jump out of the way, but you first had to make some ATP. So here comes the truck, I see it, okay, now I can jump out of the way. You've got to have ATP there, ready to go, ready to use. So there'll be two subsets here. This is stored, meaning cytoplasmic ATP. So you don't have to make it. That's why it's neither aerobic or anaerobic. It's just there, ready to go. So you can split it. You get your ADP, inorganic phosphate, and energy. Another example, other than you're about to be run over by a truck, imagine a duck in a river somewhere, I don't know, in Africa where they have, or maybe Florida, somewhere where they have alligators. And the duck sees the alligator out of the corner of its eye, lunging toward it. That duck's going to bolt. It's a life-saving a defense mechanism. Right, the other subdivision of this is stored creatine phosphate. So while you know that we store phosphate on adenosine, we also store phosphate on creatine. This is almost as fast as the first component, stored ATP, but it's a two-step reaction. So you take the creatine phosphate, and you combine it with ADP, and you're going to transfer the phosphate from creatine to ADP. So that gives you raw creatine plus ATP. Now that ATP can be split and the free energy realized. So it's almost as fast as this, but it's a two-step process instead of a one-step process. I want you to know the name of the enzyme that catalyzes this, not because I like to inundate you with useless information. I like to give you important information and clinical information. And the enzyme right here is another cardiac marker. I mentioned troponin on Monday as a cardiac marker. Well, this is another cardiac marker, and it's called creatine phosphokinase. Or simply CPK. So back to Monday when I mentioned troponin as a cardiac marker. Somebody presents at the ED, chest pain, sweating, lots of symptoms of a heart attack, but they have a normal EKG. Happens all the time. They draw blood and they look for the presence or absence of these elevated cardiac markers. Well, this is one that they look at, just like they look at troponin. They also look at myoglobin. Now, back to what I said about Roman numeral 14 versus 15. Roman numeral 14, I just go through the energy systems and list them. Roman numeral 15, we go back and pick up the details. There are no more details here. We're done with this. It's the remaining energy systems where I will list them in Roman numeral 14 and then pick up the details in Roman numeral 15. Remember, this one is not aerobic, it's not anaerobic. It is stored energy, so the ATP does not have to be generated. All right, energy system number 2, you should be somewhat familiar with because it's glycolysis. Starting point of the metabolism of glucose, whether it be middle school, high school, or college biology. This is called the glycogen lactate system. Glycogen, the way we store our carbohydrate. Lactate or lactic acid, the material that causes the burn. You've probably all been doing something, running, biking, swimming, shoveling snow, snowboarding, snow skiing, and your arms, your legs, they just begin to burn, they just scream in pain. That's the lactic acid buildup. This is anaerobic. And you get 1.3 to 1.6 minutes out of this system. A minute and a half. So this is the system that you use for very short, very intense activities. I don't know enough about swimming or biking to give you examples. You can Google it and convert them if you want to. But if we think about running and we think about the Summer Olympics, imagine the 400 meters. That's one lap around the track. If you don't know, you could certainly do that with this system. The 800 meters, which is roughly a half mile, 2 laps around the track, you could do that with this system. But you're not going to run a mile with this system. Nobody's run a mile in 1.6 minutes, and I don't think they ever will, unless they're some sort of non-human animal. So with this system, it's glycolysis. So that's why I say you should recall much of this from biology. But it's glycolysis and fermentation. As opposed to, at the end of glycolysis, you have the pyruvate. What do you do with the pyruvate? You make acetyl coenzyme A, that's aerobic. You make lactic acid, that's anaerobic. So picture glycolysis, and at the end of glycolysis, you have 2 molecules of pyruvate. Last semester in biology, you made acetyl coenzyme A out of your pyruvate. Of course, you use that to feed the Krebs cycle. That's aerobic. That's plain old metabolism, middle school, high school, college biology, what you studied in Biology 111. That's not what we're talking about now, because what we're talking about now is anaerobic. So now we're talking about making lactate, the anaerobic pathway. Now, I don't think that God nor Darwin gave us this pathway for the Summer Olympics. I think this pathway, in terms of, why do animals have this ability, goes back to protection, escape, things like that. Whether you be human, whether you be deer, you have to be able to run very, very fast for short periods of time to escape a predator. Okay, so when we go back through the energy systems, we'll pick up the details here. I reference, at least I think I do, well, it doesn't matter because everybody has a different book. But the ideal way, and what I hope you did since Monday, when you reviewed all of this, is you use your biology book and your biology notes. If you threw those things away, don't ever throw away another textbook that's part of your major. Let it become part of your permanent library. They don't give you anything when you sell it back anyway. You buy it for $300, you sell it back for $30. That's kind of a joke. Nevertheless, if you need to review glycolysis beyond what I give you, use whatever book you have, biology book, A&P book, Google. I will give you on the board the steps that I'm going to hold you to. So if you are reviewing it, you're going to see many, 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 many steps that I don't show you. It's because I'm not going to hold you to them. The steps I want you to know, I will write on the board. Same is true with the Krebs cycle. The steps I will hold you to are probably fewer than what you had to learn in biology. Be careful using textbooks and Google to review this stuff, because you'll be inundated with reactions that I'm not going to hold you to. Right, energy system number 3. This is plain old Biology 111. should know this like the back of your hand. Complete oxidation of glucose. Just being honest with you, you should have reviewed this the very first weekend of the semester when you were asked to review biology and come in on Monday ready to make an A on a biology final exam. You should have reviewed this again since Monday. This, as you know, is aerobic. You get 2 to 4 hours of operation with this system. Two to 4 hours. That's quite a range. Would you get 2 versus 3 versus 4? It really depends on two things. What are your carbohydrate stores when you start the activity? Again, you all know you store your sugar as glycogen. You store it in the liver and in the muscle. So how much glycogen do you have stored when you start working? This doesn't have to be exercise. Some of you exercise, some of you like exercise, some of you probably don't, some of you probably hate it. So think about shoveling snow, yard work, anything you want to think about, okay? Any type of work. So what are your glycogen stores? It's like how much gasoline is in your car. Or if you have an electric vehicle, how charged is the battery? Let me let this person in. So if you have a quarter of a tank of gas and you're driving from here to Florida, you're not going to get very far before you have to stop for gas. To maximize the distance you can travel before your first stop, you would fill your car up the day before you left on your trip. Now, just imagine you're going to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and leave for your trip. Well, you'd fill the car up with gas the day before. Make sure the tires were properly inflated. The oil had been changed. Larry, we don't do those things. Well, I know I don't either, but we should. So what are your glycogen stores when you start exercise? If you've been, I don't know, snacking, fasting, for whatever reason for the past 3 days and you go out for a long hike, you're going to crash. You're going to feel like crap. But if you plan on what you're doing and you eat well the few days before you go, and you eat a lot of complex carbohydrates, you'll have the maximum amount of glycogen stored in your liver and in your muscle. Some of you have heard of carbo loading. That's something athletes do. If a big race, a 100-mile bicycle race, a 2-mile swim, a triathlon, if something big is coming up, you're going to prepare for it by eating vast amounts of complex carbohydrates for 3 or 4 days before the event. The other determinant in this 2 to 4 hour thing is what are you consuming while you're working? So if you have 4 feet of snow and you don't have a snow blower, and you have to shovel it, you'll be a lot more productive if every 30 minutes or every hour you stop and eat something and drink something. That's why Gatorade exists. And I don't make money if you buy Gatorade. I personally don't even like Gatorade. I like Powerade. But it has sugar in it. Of course, it has electrolytes too. But consuming something while you're exercising, whether it's yard work, whether it's a run, a race, a hike, whatever it is. So that's what determines the 2 to 4 hours. Now, clearly, we need to be able to function for more than 2 to 4 hours. Well, let me summarize the events of this. So this is glycolysis. Then the transition reaction. in biology, you might have called the transition reaction the preliminary step to the Krebs cycle. For reference, it is the conversion of pyruvate to acetyl coenzyme A. So again, you called it either the transition reaction or the preliminary step to the Krebs cycle. I don't know which you called it. All right, after that, you have the Krebs cycle running in the background with all of this is the electron transport system and oxidative phosphorylation. Which you might have called chemiosmotic phosphorylation. So in this case, when I give you multiple names for the same thing, it's so that you can match it up with your biology notes and what you recall from biology. So again, this is basic metabolism. Okay, but we need more than, we need to be able to function for more than 4 hours. You know, people go out and work all day. I mean, not everybody sits in a office behind a desk when they work. People do yard work. People do manual labor. People do construction. There are lots of things people do. It doesn't have to be for fun. It doesn't have to be, I want to do the incline 4 times in a row. Might be that. I know a guy that did the incline 14 times in a row. And that's no longer the record. He did that on Valentine's Day for his girlfriend, of all things. I'm sure she would have rather gotten something else. I don't know what, but anyway. So we need more energy than 2 to 4 hours. So the first energy system, the fourth energy system, and this one you may have heard of, you may not have heard of. I don't know. It would depend on who you had for biology. I will assume you've never heard of this. I'll present this as though you've never heard it. But this is the oxidation of fatty acids. It's actually called beta oxidation. It is aerobic. You cannot burn fat anaerobically. It is impossible. You can burn sugar aerobically or anaerobically. Energy system number 2, the glycogen lactate system, is the anaerobic, can't say oxidation, is the anaerobic utilization of glucose. Energy system number 3 is the aerobic utilization of glucose. The only way to burn fat is aerobically. The time? Well, I don't know. I guess it's been pushed to the limit. I told you early in the semester when we were talking about exercise physiology, that like the very first page of your notes, branches of anatomy and physiology. You know, there are just some crazy things people do. The Badwater Marathon. From Death Valley to Mount Whitney. 135 miles. It's so hot, people have to change their shoes because the soles of their shoes begin to melt. They decided that's not enough. So now they have the Badwater Double. You're not going to do this on sugar. There's no way in the world. Up until a few years ago, the 100-mile race was considered sort of the ultimate. No more. Now the 200-mile race has replaced the 100-mile race with what these ultra runners are doing to test the limits of their ability. Another example I showed you at the beginning of the semester was the Ironman. So, and as I told you that day, correct these distances because I don't know exactly how far the swim is. It might be 2.2. So you swim 2.4 miles in the ocean with sharks, not in a lake. Then you jump on a bike and you ride 110 miles. And then you run a freaking marathon. Well, that's not enough. Well, they have the double Ironman. You do it all twice. I mean, this is just, I can't imagine these things. They're just bizarre, crazy, with all due respect to the people who do these things. It's like Matt doing the incline in 18 minutes. I mean, what's your incline time? Don't answer out loud, but answer to yourself. Now imagine, and I don't care if you're doing it in 30 minutes. Imagine doing it in 18. So there are just some unbelievable people out there. Some of the people that do manual labor for a living, some of those people, they don't work 8 hours a day. Some of those people work 12 hours a day. Some of those people work 6 days a week. Some of those people work 60, 70 hours a week. They don't sit behind a desk for a mere 30 or 40 hours. So where do we get the energy? Fat. Burning fat. Okay, so now we're going to go back through these different energy systems. We'll talk about burning carbs, burning fat. Burning carbs, of course, they're energy systems number 2 and 3. Burning fat is energy system number 4. Why don't I have energy system number 1? Why didn't I put it up there somewhere? Because it's neither. It's stored ATP. It's in your cytoplasm. You don't have to make the ATP. Aerobic versus anaerobic, energy system 3 and 4 are aerobic. Energy system number 2, the glycogen lactate system, is anaerobic. Then we'll also deal with this, and we're actually going to do this first, just to get it out of the way. So when you burn carbohydrates, you get 4 kilocalories per gram of carbohydrate. Now, that's not the real number. The real number is something like 3.79. But the government thinks we're stupid and can't do math. So we use 4. Whatever. Some of you that have taken nutrition know the real number is not 4. Something to wrap your brain around. Give me some food, anything. It's got to be in a package. Crackers, cookies, anything. Read this. Yes, I can. Okay, so this says calorie. That's a lie. Calories we consume are dietary calories. This is food. So these are dietary calories. 1 dietary calorie equals 1 kilocalorie. But this doesn't say 80 dietary calories. It doesn't say that. It doesn't say 80 kilocalories. I mean, read it. You see? It says 80 calories. That's what it says. But because it's food, those 80 calories are dietary calories. They are kilocalories. Therefore, this is actually 80,000 calories. But if we thought in those terms, we'd all stop eating. Let's say Pablo eats 2,500 calories per day. Those are dietary calories, which are kilocalories. So he actually eats 2.5 million calories per day. But if he thought about it that way, he might cut his, cut it down a little bit, because he'd be freaked here. Thank you. I'm not actually going to eat it, but if I get hungrier, I will ask for it back. Okay, so nobody tells you this. Again, the package just says calories 80. It doesn't even say 80 calories. It says calories 80. All right, so when we burn carbs, we get 3.79, but we use 4 kilocalories per gram. When we burn protein, we get 4 kilocalories per gram. But 4 is not the real number. The real number is something like 3.12. But we use 4 because the government assumes we're all idiots and can't do first grade arithmetic. It doesn't even round to 4, does it? 3.12. It rounds to 3. But we use 4. From fat, we get 9 kilocalories per gram. But that's not the real number. Of course, you knew it wasn't. It couldn't be. Point here is, to make it mathless, we use whole numbers, but they're not really whole numbers. Now, a point, one of the points I want to make here is, don't forget, you get a lot more calories from a gram of fat than you do a gram of carbohydrate. So let's say you were looking at something, and on the label it says 8 grams of carbohydrate, 8 grams of protein, and 8 grams of fat. It doesn't have any more fat than it has carbs. Got equal amounts of everything. No, it doesn't. Because for the fat, we get more than twice the number of calories per gram. So we have 8 times 4 for the carbs. Okay, so it's multiplied by 4 because we get 4 kilocalories per gram. We have 8 times 4 for the protein. So So we get 32 calories of carbs, 32 calories of protein. How many calories of fat do we get? 70. Oh, yeah, yes, you're right. So we have 8 times 9, 72 fat calories. Again, there's more than twice as much fat as there is carb or protein. But we don't see that when we look at this. It's equal amounts. Carbohydrate, protein, fat, equal amounts. No, they're not equal at all. Because we get more than twice the calorie. Oh, I thought you went to get food. Making you hungry or something. Comes back with a plate of brownies. All right, so be aware of this type of thing. What? Let's do this too. Calculate percent calories from fat. It's just like any percent. What you get divided by what was possible. So first of all, what are the total calories? 2, 4, 6, 7 and 3 is 10, plus 3 is 13. Somebody check that math. We have 136 total calories. 72 of them are fat. So there's your math for the percent fat. So using whole numbers. So that thing is more than half fat. When you saw this on the label, you saw there's no more fat than there are carbs or protein. When you do when you really look at it correctly, considering the calories per gram, that thing is more than half fat. I mean, that doesn't mean you don't want to eat it. It might be delicious. I mean, I eat bacon all the time because I love it. I'll probably die here any minute. At least get through the afternoon lecture. Because as I've told you, there are no details to add to energy system number 1. So we'll pick up with energy system number 2. Okay, so we start with glucose. This is going to be glycolysis. The first thing you do is you energize the molecule. So you spend a molecule of ATP, generating glucose 6-phosphate. Now break that down, glucose 6-phosphate. Just a molecule of glucose with a phosphate group on carbon 6. No big deal. Then you rearrange it into fructose 6-phosphate. There's no energy lost or gained there. You just rearrange things. You know the difference between glucose and fructose. They're both hexose sugars. Glucose is an aldose, fructose is a ketose. Then you spend another molecule of ATP. And you put that ATP on, or that phosphate on carbon 1. So you have fructose 1,6-diphosphate. You can break the word down, it's simple. Fructose 1,6-diphosphate. It's a molecule of fructose. It has 2 phosphates on it. Diphosphate. Where are they? One's on carbon 1, one's on carbon 6. Okay, we're trying to make ATP, and so far, all we've done is spend ATP. Well, think about, and I'm going to change boards for a minute. One of you make sure I change back if I forget to. Think about thermodynamics from biology. Whether a reaction is endergonic or exergonic, we have the substrate and the product. So there's a net drop in energy. So this is exergonic. We still had this energy of activation to overcome. If the reaction is going to consume energy, so it's endergonic, it's easy to think about, well, it's going to take energy to do it. It's an endergonic reaction. It's consuming energy. But what's harder to wrap our brains around is when the reaction releases energy, it still takes energy to get the process started. The simplest way to relate to that, I repeat what I just said, even if the reaction is going to release energy, it takes energy to start the reaction. So the easiest way to relate to that is to imagine that you're going to push a car down a hill. But there's a speed breaker right there. So yeah, the car will roll down the hill, but first we need 3, 4, 5 people to give the car a shove to get it over the bump. Then it will go. Well, that's what's happening right here. So we have to energize the glucose molecule before we can get any energy out of it. I don't know if any of you have ever played slot machines, a stupid thing to do, but I guess it might be fun. But do you just walk up to the slot machine and it spits money out? What do you have to do in hopes of getting money out? To put money in. Yeah. So we're not going to get anything out of this without an initial investment. All right. Now a bunch of things happen. This represents splitting the molecule. So if we have a if we have a molecule of glucose, which is 6 carbons, if we cut it in half, how many carbons will the two products have? Okay. Back on the guys are supposed to yell at me. 2 of you out there watching. No, not really. We just logged on and went back to bed. Right after this branch, after this fork in the road, several things happen. We reduce a molecule of NAD, generating NADH. And 2 molecules of ADP are phosphorylated, generating 2 molecules of ATP. The 2 ATP are worth 2. Those 2 ATP are worth 2. But remember, we're functioning anaerobically, so the NADH is worthless. Because what do we need to get the energy out of NADH? We need the electron transport system and oxidative phosphorylation. And what does the electron transport system require? It requires oxygen. There is no oxygen in this system. So the NADH is worthless. So what did we get here in terms of energy? We've got -1 twice, that's -2. And we've got +2 twice, that's +4. So 2 ATP. Now remember, you normally get 36 to 38 when you completely oxidize a molecule of glucose. You got 2 out of the 36 or 38. What's the percent efficiency? Well, again, same way you always calculate percent. I think it's 5.26. Yep. So an extremely inefficient way to function. We can only function 1.3 to 1.6 minutes this way. So this is glycolysis. What happens next is called fermentation. Glycolysis is a fundamental part of basic biology metabolism, so you should definitely remember that, and you're welcome. I left out all the intermediates here. As I said, the steps you have to know, I will write on the board. Fermentation was mentioned in biology, but a big deal was not made out of it. So you're going to convert the pyruvate to lactate. And the reason for doing this is that you oxidize NADH, regenerating NAD. NAD is a substrate back here. You have to have it. If you run out of NAD, you can't do this. So that NAD that is regenerated is recycled to keep glycolysis running. So that's why fermentation exists. Not because we want to feel the burn in our muscles. The limit of this reaction, 1.3 to 1.6 minutes. All right, pay attention, guys. I've gone back to the small board. I see 2 of you are at home watching. If I forget to go back to the big board, yell at me. Because Baxter won't. Just sitting there doing what dogs do. Dogs are gross, you know? I love them, but they're just gross. I like it when they lick themselves. It's just the sound it makes. Trying to go to sleep, you just hear that sound. Poppy, stop it! You're clean enough, for God's sakes. pH. Okay, so yeah. Again, I think you've all been doing something and you felt that burn. You can only stand it for so long. Now you can learn to stand it. You can embrace the pain. I always forget to wear the shirt that goes with it. The shirt says, pain is just weakness leaving your body. True story. I may have told you this already in some other context, but I'll tell you again so I can sit down for a minute. This was in Colorado. A young lady, middle school, high school. She loved to run recreationally, and she went out for the cross. Have I told you this? She went out for the cross country team or ran on the cross. I don't know if you have to go out for it like football, but she ran on the cross country team. And again, she was either ninth grade or maybe it was middle school, junior high school, whatever they called it back then. And at the first meet, she just had a blast. She lost every race she was in, but she just had a blast. And the coach asked her, you know, why are you so happy? What? I had so much fun. Really? He said, you realize it's supposed to hurt. When you're competing, it's painful. Training may be fun. Thinking about it may be fun. After it's over may be fun. But when you're in the moment of the race, it hurts. She said, really? She won every race after that, went on to become an Olympic athlete. Nobody told her that competition hurts. When these men and women are running the Boston Marathon and running, 5-minute, 20-second miles over and over and over and over and over, and then to take the lead, they run a 5-minute, 10-second mile uphill. Do you think they feel good? It hurts like hell. Not that I've ever done it, but I've read enough about it. It's excruciating. And so the young lady didn't realize that. And of course, for most people, what we do recreationally, and we want it to be fun. We want to be able to, I don't know how you do it swimming, but we want to be able to swim along, and you just can't do it. But we want to be able to swim along with our friend and talk about the job, the school, the kids, the dog, whatever. We can't do that during competition. So the limit here, lactic acid burns. You can learn to embrace the pain. You can deal with that. And professional athletes do have to train hard to help them learn to embrace the pain. But the real limit, the intramuscular pH. I mean, you're making an acid. Look over there at the other board. We can't, Larry. We're at home. You're making an acid. What's happening to the pH in the muscle tissue? It's falling. If you look at a reaction profile where you plot the rate as a function of pH, so run the reaction at a bunch of different pHs. And the maximum rate corresponds to whatever pH that is. Will the reaction occur at this pH? Yes, but not as efficiently. So as you're making lactic acid and the intramuscular pH is falling, you're getting further and further away from the optimal pH. The reactions become less and less efficient, and eventually they shut down. Doesn't matter how tough you are, how much pain you can endure. Eventually, everything shuts down. Now, before I erase this, I want to remind you of something I've already said, but energy, and look in your notes if you need to. Energy systems 2 and 3 both start with glycolysis. The difference is, what do we do with the pyruvate? So this is energy system number 2. This is anaerobic. But if the difference between energy system 2 and 3 is what do we do with the pyruvate, then it kind of makes sense to put that in this same picture ever so briefly. So in energy system number 3, look at your notes, it's aerobic, 2 to 4 hours, complete oxidation of glucose. You make acetyl coenzyme A. You use that to feed the Krebs cycle. So we really don't ever have to draw all of these glycolysis details again, because energy system number 3 is going to start out the same way. So why redraw all of this? I want you to look at this as a fork in the road. So you're a molecule of pyruvate. You can go left, you can go right. Now, if it's you or him or her or one car, it has to go left or right. But what if it's 100 people? What if this is a trail or a road? There's 100 people here, 100 bicycles here, 100 cars here. Couldn't some of them go left and some go right? I mean, do they all have to go the same way? You're hiking in the mountains. You come to a fork. So I want to go left. There's a pretty view of the lake. I want to go right. The fishing's better. You don't all have to go the same direction. So this is called the fate of pyruvate. And to some degree, we will be able to predict the fate of pyruvate as a function of your maximum heart rate. The body does not like to make lactic acid because it burns, it hurts. So you will take the aerobic pathway as long as oxygen is available. You start taking the anaerobic pathway when you are using oxygen faster than you can consume it. What if you are using 10 liters of oxygen per minute? And what if you are consuming 8 liters of oxygen per minute? Well, you're in debt. So you'll take the aerobic pathway as long as you can. But when you're burning more than you have oxygen to burn it with, you have to take the anaerobic pathway. Okay, so it's not all or none. It's not there's one car at the fork in the road, it has to go left or right. There's 100 cars. There's 10 million molecules of pyruvate. The percentage of them will take the aerobic pathway. Percentage will take the anaerobic pathway. When you're sitting like you are right now, or even walking, you essentially 100% take the aerobic pathway. The faster you go, so you're walking briskly, you're jogging, you're running, you're sprinting, you're racing, the 200 meters, not that we would ever want to do that, but the Olympic athletes do it, you start making less acetyl and more lactate. You become less aerobic and more anaerobic as your intensity increases. These people running the 400 meters, the 200 meters in the Olympics, they're making almost 100% lactate. They're not making hardly any acetyl. You are, what's your debt right here? Huh? 2 liters. You're 2 liters a minute in debt. Guys, this is exactly like if you spend $10,000 per month, but you only bring home, this isn't your gross, this is your net, you only bring home $8,000 per month. Well, what's going on here? You're spending $2,000 more every month than you have. So what's happening? Yes, the Visa card balance is going through the roof. All right, next we have energy system number 3, the complete oxidation of glucose. Right here on the lecture outline, You're right, and you should too. Monday, we will begin with energy system number 3. Well, listen to me for a minute. Adina and Caroline, please listen as well. I like you guys, and you're all intelligent creatures. But some of you have got to do what I've asked you to do more than once. You've got to review biology. You've got to know metabolism at the biology 111 level. If you do, then today's lecture was simple. I added a little bit to it. But if you didn't know it when you came in the door this morning, if you don't know biology 111, then thank God you got the recording. Let's see if it recorded. It'll be the one where it didn't. It says it did. So fix that this weekend, okay, if you need to. I don't know who needs to and who doesn't need to. Pretty good ideas, but I don't know. So please fix it this weekend. Got your biology course materials? That might be your best source. If you bought any A&P book, you know, and I ask you all to buy some book. If you got any A&P book, it's going to have metabolism in it. If you don't have any book, don't go buy one. Use Google. But Google it at the elementary level. Be inundated with stuff that you don't have to know. So please fix that this weekend. Of course, the other thing you have on your plate is the muscle. Classes of There Is You Alive. I know it does. That's why when you look around the room, half the people that were here day one aren't here. Been like that for over 30 years. All right. I like you all. Fix it. I know you will.
No, but it's